all communication. And I had flown up and down, and the airplane was silent. Everybody was,
We're
oh
all
God,
sitting-
oh God, you know. And Jan was already afraid of flying and thought she was going to die anyhow. She was probably well convinced that she might.
At that point, I thought, yeah.
So, we were flying back and forth up and down the highway, which is about 40 miles from mountain to mountain. And this fella came on the radio, and you know how we call, if I'm going to talk to you and you're Lark, I would call you by your number. I wouldn't say, hey, Barry. I'd say,
right.
What's your number?
4277
X-ray.
Yeah.
I say
4200
X-ray. And so this RN number was 1833 Zulu, and so we were flying back and forth. I had the speaker on overhead, and this guy calls. He said, 33 Zulu, are you lost?
In perfect English. Flawless.
And probably Arkansas, because we didn't detect a Texas accent or
it was totally
a
understandable.
South Louisiana accent or
Right.
anything.
Right.
It was just, he sounded just like us. And I responded, I said, yes. And he said, are you going to Matehuala? And I said, yeah. I was kind of curious then, and we were headed north at that time, up and down the highway. And he asked, are you next to the Concepcion del Rio VOR? VOR meaning a navigation transmitter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I looked out the window, my right window, and there was a VOR I was passing. Well, the ONC doesn't show you names or anything. And I said, well, I don't know, but I'm just passing a VOR. And he said, well, if you'll tune in 117.1 and fly out the 111-degree radial, and Matehuala is about 34 miles. And I said, thanks. And he never answered. And I thought that the Lord gave me the scripture that in Hebrews, I think it's 8, says, be careful how you treat strangers, because they could be angels.
Right.
Unaware to me. And I thought, wow, Lord, you gave me an angel. And so I tuned it into the 117, and we flew out the 111-degree radial, and about 30-some miles, we crossed
A little saddle.
a little saddle with the clouds overhead like that. We crossed in through a saddle right on that VOR.
And there's the
There was
airport.
town.
Mm-hmm. Matehuala.
And are you
airport.
hearing the transmission too? Or did you?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
hearing
all
him
of us,
talk.
all 6 of us. So we land and everybody's cheering because they're having a prayer meeting or awake. and we land and everybody gets out and we start telling the story. And I think it was John, but nevertheless, one of the
It was John Ince or Charlie Oliver. I don't remember.
one of the missionaries there that we served said, well, that's not possible. I mean, it could not have happened that way.
One, you're in the bowl.
Well,
On the VOR, he goes,
there's several
you couldn't have
things.
flown in on the VOR.
And we said, why?
And we said, well, we just did, you know. And he said, that's not possible. He goes, the guy running for the presidency was here a couple of days ago. And, you know, in Mexico, they do a lot of things different than we do in the States. And they pulled, in order for all of his broadcasting and his things he was setting up, they pulled all the power off that VOR and blew it out. And it was not working.
So, recount the whole thing.
He knew our
Due
end numbers.
to navigational errors, we get lost. We're under overcast. Somebody over the overcast calls us in perfect English by name and number, knowing exactly where we are, knowing the exact spot, because we had just crossed that VOR.
Right. I mean, you look down
Knew
and
the
it was.
frequency and knew the radio to go out to on a radio that didn't work.
Now, as a pilot, you know, how often have you been close enough to an airplane to know the end number?
Like hardly
Like,
never.
you can be wingtip to wingtip, and it's very difficult
Right.
to read it.
Yeah.
He knew where we were going, the VOR, the radio to fly, the distance, and when we got there,
And it
the
didn't
VOR
work.
wasn't even online.
And it didn't work.
Oh my
That
God.
was our.
That was an angel. There is no other way anyone
But
could
that's
know
how
this
you
thing.
used to fly, though. Back
Well,
when
yeah,
was
you
that?
did.
I
You
mean,
just
that's
you got in and
a
go.
lot of the
Time
seat
we
by
were-
the pants.
It's not like now
One
where you
time
have
we were flying.
every rule and regulation.
One time we were flying.